we are.
Hello, everybody. We have a cat down there. Come on, buddy.
There's cats everywhere. There's always cats everywhere.
Come on. He's down dirty.
Where are you? Come here. Up we go.
There's a Vincent.
It's a Vincent. We got a Void.
Boy.
He's not too pleased.
No.
This is not what he wanted. But
I'm
good.
gonna trounce my brother again.
Yep, because that's what we do. That's what we do. Hi, everyone.
I'm gonna say the skelly. Excuse me.
Oh, that was just a disaster waiting to happen.
Alright. Yeah.
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3,
He's flattened
2,
out on the floor back
1.
there.
Oh.
Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening, everybody. Now we got everyone. There we go.
We're saving the skelly tonight.
It was an idea.
Okay, let's try this again.
Note to self: don't hit the skeleton.
Got him. Okay, we're good.
All right.
And we got some comments about this.
Yeah, I'm sure we do.
He's a good skeleton.
That is the least graceful start to a show that we have ever had in what must be approaching... I've lost count. How many videos are there?
Yeah.
How many times have we done this?
A lot.
A lot.
A lot.
So, yeah. But yeah, so hi everybody. It's been a few weeks.
Yes. Happy Memorial Day weekend.
Yes, happy Memorial Day weekend to everybody. Hope that you have had the opportunity to kind of make the most of it, and we do appreciate everybody who gave their all for this country. So
Yes.
Cheers to them. But yeah, so here we are again after we've been back. Last show was
Pre-Norway.
yes,
Oh.
yeah. So yeah, since the last time we saw you, we've been to England and Norway.
Yes.
Yes, which is why our last two shows before we left were about England and Norway.
So, and no, we're not going to Japan. This is in honor of my nephew who is about to go to Japan. So, I decided I would research some spooky things for him for his trip. So.
Yeah, and he's leaving next week?
Next week.
Next week, yeah. So, yeah, Japan is not on our travel radar yet.
Yet. Maybe one day.
Maybe one day.
But not right now. Sir, please do not get hooked in my purse.
He's going to do whatever he wants to do, because cats.
All right.
But, yeah, so yes.
Since we got back, we're now 7 days a week with the show, or with the tours.
Yes, we're not doing these shows 7 nights a week.
I haven't done that much research.
No.
But yeah, so we're going to do back-to-back weeks, this week and next week, to get us back on the right schedule. And then, yeah.
Yeah.
Got a couple of festivals upcoming in July and August that we're going to be part of.
Yes, so we're...
Spring-a-ween in July.
Summerween.
Summerween, sorry.
Summerween, which is going to be at Oddballs Antiques, and Claire's Antique Shop, which is over there just off of Broad Street, kind of near West End area.
Yep, and we're going to be at Virginia Comic Con in August.
In August, and again in November.
Yep.
We were away. We just had one a couple of weeks ago, but we were out of the country, so we weren't
part of that. We did a local festival instead.
Yep. A couple of our guides did.
Yep.
But anyways, yeah. So we got that coming up, and yeah, we're also going to be at the Nightmare Weekend in October.
Yes.
Which will be here before we know it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be a big 3-day thing that's run by the folks at GalaxyCon. Going to be at the convention center. So
yes.
looking forward to that.
We'll have a table there this time.
Yep.
And we submitted for panels. We're just waiting for our confirmation on those. Unless you have gotten them and I haven't.
I have not gotten them yet.
But
yeah, so...
Why are you trying to look there?
I don't know.
Okay.
In any case...
Just say you've got them closer there.
Yeah. Well, no, it popped up there, but not here.
Okay.
Anyways, it's fine. So, but yeah, we got Haunted Japan for you tonight. And, I get to kick things off? I get to kick things off. So, we are expecting,
Lee will be joining us
in just a few minutes. So there will be a little brief interruption, whatever have you, when they arrive. So, shouldn't be too long.
They were giving the tour tonight.
Yes. Anyway, so yes, perched on the Ring of Fire in the northwest edge of the Pacific Ocean lies the extensive archipelago that comprises the country of Japan. Stretched out for over more than 14,000 islands, this beautiful and ancient country has a complex and often tumultuous history full of stories that sometimes blur the line between the world we can see around us and something more surreal and mysterious. With so much history and its status as a cultural powerhouse, there is so much more to Japan than we can hope to cover in a single hour. So please forgive us in advance if your favorite tidbit of Japanese culture doesn't make the cut in this episode. If you have an idea for some aspect of Japan that you would like to hear on a future show, drop it in the comments and we'll circle back to it on another occasion. In the meantime, thanks for joining us as we take a dive into Japan's spooky side. So we're going to start on the island of Okinawa and the hills of Katanakachu. I think I got that right. Katanakachu village, just a stone's throw from the historic Nagachu castle. Nakagusuku castle ruins. I should have read this before. Again.
That's why I was doing it, and I still know I'm going to mess it up.
Yeah. Nakagusuku Castle ruins, a beautiful seaside resort, was intended to rise in the 1970s to draw in visitors from all around the world. The Nakagusuku Hotel was the brainchild of successful Okinawa businessman and politician by the name of Hajime Takara. The idea was for the hotel to leverage the influx of tourists that were expected to arrive during the 1975 Okinawa Ocean Exposition, which itself was to celebrate the return of the Ryukuku Island chain. Wow.
You got this.
I got this.
You got this.
I haven't started to drink yet. Maybe that's the problem. Ryukuku Island chain to Japan from the United States. No expense was to be spared in its elaborate construction, with the resort planned to feature a fully functioning zoo, complete with giraffes and elephants, an amusement park, a water park, a nightclub, and all the amenities one would expect from what was to be a playground for rich tourists. However, dark days awaited this dream project, and the resort was doomed to become known as one of the most cursed and haunted places in Japan. Before construction even began, concerned monks in the area came to Takara to plead with him to abandon his plans. They explained that the proposed resort was to be built on land that held graves, sacred sites, and a cave inhabited by restless spirits.
Yeah, we all know how this is going to
go. Add into the mix that nearby Nakagusuku Castle had been the site of numerous bloody battles since its construction in the early 15th century, and it was almost certain that any major construction would upset the ancestral spirits who still inhabited the site. While Takara listened to the pleas of the monks, he didn't build his political and business reputation by turning his back on a challenge. Construction began right as scheduled, but it would not be long before it became clear that there may have been more to the monks' warnings than just words. Bad weather and poor road conditions quickly started to put construction behind schedule, but then came the accidents. Secured materials would break loose, crashing into men and equipment. Vehicles would stall and crash, taking them out of service. Workers were getting hurt in a series of inexplicable mishaps at an alarming rate. All of this in a work culture that put OSHA's most stringent safety measures to shame. Simply put, there is no way that any of this should have been happening in a country like Japan. Then there were the spirited encounters. Some workers began to complain of seeing shadow figures lurking about the site, as if somberly watching them go about their work. There were also sightings of an ancient lord on the construction site in what appeared to be 15th century attire. The workers began to call the project cursed and haunted. That talk soon spun into action, or lack thereof, as the workers started refusing to come to work. The project was falling further and further behind schedule, and the costs were spiraling out of control. Hajime Takara was frustrated and he saw only one way to get things back on track. He would prove that there was nothing to be afraid of. Takara decided to take up residence at the unfinished structure, but after just a couple nights, workers arrived at the site one morning to find Takara had gone stark raving mad. He was committed to an asylum where he passed away a couple of decades later in 1994. The project did not survive Takara's departure. Construction came to a halt in 1975 as the prime contractor declared bankruptcy. The project was abandoned, and the incomplete resort would slowly be reclaimed by the surrounding forest. The site became a popular destination for urban explorers, many of whom returned from their adventures with a variety of strange tales. Glowing orbs, shadow figures, apparitions in 15th century Japanese garb, eyes glowing in the shadows of the ruins, sudden feelings of terror or panic, and even people claiming to have been assaulted by unseen hands. For over 40 years, the rotting concrete hulk stood, weed-choked, defiled by graffiti, crumbling, and haunted. In 2019 and 2020, demolition crews reduced this eyesore to rubble. Whilst destruction was undoubtedly a relief for the landscape, it remains to be seen if it was enough to let the unsettled souls here rest. We will need to wait and see what urban explorers and seekers of the paranormal may have to say about the one-time site of the Nakagusuku Hotel in the years ahead.
Beware, you have a void now.
I see him. You loving on Skelly.
Letting know Skelly that he's loved. He's a good friend.
Lee, thank you, I think. So proud of Chris's pronunciation.
I saw that. Let's see how well I can do. Alright, we're going to go over to Fukuoka and Kishinu.
Fukuoka.
Okay, yeah. So, some of the most haunted and infamous places in Japan are the tunnels. We have, of course, covered a few of these before. You might remember we covered the tunnel associated with Lake Kuzurua in Fuki Prefecture and the Kyoto-taki Tunnel in Kyoto back in April of 2020. Suffice to say, there's more of where this comes from. So let's talk about the old Inunaka Tunnel that lies south of Fukuoka, what he said, and has several grim stories to be told about it in the inspiration of the recent horror movie called The Howling Village that was released in 2019. The tunnel is named for a village that once stood in the area, or maybe named of the valley. It is uncertain what was named first, but that's not too important for this story. What's notable, however, is that the village, which was established sometime during the Edo period, several hundred years ago, it was the source of the spooky tales about the old Inunaka tunnel, at least until the village was abandoned and flooded as a result of the construction of the Inunaka Dam between 1970 and 1994. One story states with a couple driving up the mountain by the tunnel, and they were passing the tunnel, as they were passing the tunnel, the car's engine quit and they ended up needing to walk to find some help. Investigators would later find their path from the car towards the abandoned village. Along the way, they passed an ominous sign that said the Constitution of Japan no longer applies after this point. I don't know about you, but I'd be turning around.
That's kind of a weird sign.
That's not the norm. Even in Japan, that's not the norm. The path was strenuous, and the trail went cold in the abandoned village. The couple was never seen again. Numerous horrifying tales have arisen to explain the disappearance, but with no evidence or witnesses, the story begins to tread into the realm of legend. It's said that the adventurous people can find the couple's car, still abandoned, not far from the entrance of the old tunnel, collecting dust and being claimed by the elements. The grim tales about the tunnel don't end here. One story is also about a young girl who was murdered by the tunnel, but never laid to rest. She's been haunting the tunnel ever since, making her presence known to those who dare enter. Visitors to the tunnel say that you can hear whispering on the faint sound of someone saying, "Stop." Those who disregard this warning have reported a sensation of being physically pushed from the tunnel by an unseen force. Perhaps it's the girl demanding her privacy, or perhaps she's trying to save others from sharing her fate. After all, hers was not the only death in this tunnel. Another murder took place inside the Inaki tunnel, and it was a 20-year-old Umiyama Kuichi. Okay. Who was abducted and tortured by 5 young thieves in 1988. Why the thieves were not content with simply making off with his car is unknown, but they doused him with gasoline and set him on fire in the tunnel. The murderers were arrested. They were sentenced to a life prison. But in the years since then, some have claimed seeing the spirit of the young man around the tunnel, stuck in the place where he met his terrible fate. The murder was so shocking that the tunnel was bricked over to prevent another such event from happening there, and to deter those who would try to visit the scene of the crime. Still, those who approach the tunnel for any reason say that electronic devices will malfunction, cars will break down near the tunnel, and you may also hear dogs barking and growling from the tunnel. Perhaps even an inhuman screech coming from the darkness. If you insist on trying to visit the area around the tunnel, use caution, and be sure not to visit there alone. We don't want you to become the latest spirit trapped inside this terrifying location.
Yep.
Do we have comments? Questions? Emojis?
Yes, emojis. No, that sign, I still, it's
that
kind
sign
of,
is just weird.
It is weird.
It's weird. It's out of place. It's not right. I would turn around.
Yeah.
Sorry. Your turn.
My turn?
Your turn.
So, moving to Yamanashi Prefecture, in an isolated spot in the mountains just to the west of Tokyo, we find a picturesque gorge with a waterfall known as Oiran Buchi. It all seems innocent enough, but a flag might go up when you find out that Oiran Buchi translates to the courtesan's abyss. This area got its name from an event that transpired here back in the 1570s. In that era, the region was largely controlled by the powerful Takeda clan. The clan funded many of their exploits through a profitable and very secret gold mine that was located by the gorge. The Takeda used their funds for a wide variety of activities, including mounting military campaigns, funding shrines, and building a vast spy network. A key component of this network was the kunoichi, a group of female ninjas. To fulfill their missions, the women would pose as anything from holy women to courtesans and everything in between. 55 of these women were employed at the gold mine to entertain the men working there during their downtime as courtesans. At least that was what their outward-facing task was. Given their skill set, it's likely that they engaged in more than just entertainment. Eventually, the mine started to run dry, and the decision was made to abandon it. Despite this abandonment, the Takeda clan still didn't want their rivals to learn of the site. Witnesses to the mining needed to be dealt with, including the kunoichi. Hi, Lee.
There you go.
We have company.
Hello.
So you can put the blanket down on there if you'd like.
No, it's hot. What are you kidding?
Fair enough.
And the one closest to you is yours.
Cool.
Yes.
I'm actually gonna get water too.
Okay,
Go
yeah.
for it.
Yep. You know your way around. So, yes, the witnesses needed to be dealt with, including the kunoichi. A platform was constructed on the edge of the gorge under the premise that it would be a stage for an upcoming performance. The kunoichi would dance as a part of this performance, and they were sent out on the platform to practice. Once they were engaged in the dance practice, men from the Takeda clan destroyed the platform supports, sending the women plummeting to their deaths. The site will be named Oiran Buchi so that the crime would never be forgotten. In more recent years, a rickety suspension bridge was built over the gorge, adding to the creepy atmosphere that lays heavy on the heavily wooded landscape. For those who visit the area, they need to be mindful of the restless kunoichi spirits. The women are frequently seen in the area, and howling and shrieking can be heard echoing through the night. Most terrifying of all, however, is the beastly form of a faceless woman that roams the area. This menacing creature seeks out those who are foolish enough to roam the area late in the evening. Could it be the collective manifestation of the Kunoichi's anguish, or perhaps a curse that has been placed on the land? We're unlikely to get an answer to this question, and I know that I'm not going to be the one to wander into these haunted mountains to try and find an answer.
No.
Yeah.
No. Samurai time!
Yes.
Samurai.
Oh, cool. We're talking about samurais?
Yeah, we got a couple samurai tales in here.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Because, of course, we can't do ghostly tales about Japan without some samurai tales. Right? That's sacrilege. So, we're going to talk about the country's famous samurai, and we're going to step back to the 1100s, where the Heike and Genji clans were waging a bloody war for supremacy in the conflict known as the Genpei War. The Heike clan commander was a well-known warrior named Taira no Tomomori, and he was ruthless and resourceful, often experimenting with new and unorthodox ways to engage in warfare. The most notable example of this took place during a naval battle at Mizushumi, where commander ordered the ships to be tied together to provide a sort of artificial island on which to fight. Despite the commander's best efforts, the Heike clan was eventually defeated, and Tomomori refused to submit, so he and his warriors chose to commit ritual suicide. They did this by tying heavy anchors to their feet and hurling themselves over the side of the naval vessel to their deaths in the Shimonoseki Strait?
Shimonoseki Strait. Yeah,
Hey.
yeah.
Ever since that
Close
fateful
enough.
day, the spirits of the Tomomori and his fellow samurai warriors are said to haunt this patch of sea between the islands of Kaishu and Honshu, often seen wandering aboard passenger vessels or just under the waves. It's also said that their spirits give the area's Heike crabs their mysterious samurai head markings.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want to see a picture of one of those.
You
I
got
know,
your
I
phone?
have a
Yeah,
phone.
yeah, we have the
Yeah.
internet.
There
now.
is the internet. So
that's-
yes. Heike.
It's not samurai times. No. They didn't have internet in samurai times.
No, they did not.
So I know how to spell Heike because that's
Yeah, you were just reading it.
Heike
So-
crab.
But that's not the only samurai ghost story that we have for you. There is another famous ghostly samurai as an ancestor of Taira no Tomomori, known as Taira no Masakado. Masakado was notorious for being rebellious, headstrong, and abrasive to those around him, but in the 930s, his conflicts escalated to a whole new level. His troubles began with family disputes, when Masakado's uncles tried to steal portions of his land upon the death of his father.
Damn.
Since inheritance laws were not firmly established at this time, it mostly turned into a free-for-all, with the uncles gathering a force of warriors to ambush and kill Masakado. You want to show some pictures? Maybe?
Yeah, that looks like samurai to me.
Yeah. I don't know if this will work, but yeah, that roughly works. They look kind of freaky.
Yeah, let me see me. Oh, yellow face.
Yeah, he definitely got a samurai face.
Anyways,
Okay.
so
Learned something new today.
the uncles tried to team up and kill Masakado. Unfortunately for them, Masakado proved to be a truly formidable force to be reckoned with in battle, single-handedly defeating the ambush to send them scurrying back to where they'd come. Masakado's revenge was furious and merciless as he descended upon his relatives' lands to burn and demolish everything in his path, as well as brutally killing thousands, many by his own sword. The bloody dispute was brought to the attention of the emperor, but Masakado was able to avoid persecution by invoking laws at the time which he argued he had not broken. When the court found that he had remained within the law and had offered good reasons for his decidedly harsh and terrifying actions, he was subsequently pardoned and given amnesty by the emperor. This would not be the end of Masakado's familial conflicts. Other relatives, including his own father-in-law and cousin, attacked him and were once again driven back by his battle prowess. Howling for revenge, Masakado raised a fighting force to invade their lands in Hitachi province. In the end, Masakado eventually forcefully acquired 8 different provinces, all the while arguing that his military actions were all within his legal right that he had been granted. Although the nobles of the time condemned his actions, there was not much they could do realistically. Further complicating matters was the fact that the peasants of his conquered lands adored Masakado. Whereas they had been previously treated with disdain and abuse by their oppressive rulers, the peasants were treated justly under the reign of Masakado, which caused them to see him as somewhat of a savior. He had also gained legendary status as a fierce and skilled warrior who could not be defeated in combat, which caused all of those who would oppose him to fear and avoid conflict with Masakado. The government, which was at the time based in Kyoto, grew increasingly concerned by this powerful, headstrong, loose cannon with his new kingdom and masses of loyal peasant followers. It was widely believed that Masakado meant to expand his domain or even proclaim himself the new emperor of Japan. They were right to be worried, because soon the new unruly ruler was soon doing just that, making bold claims to being the new emperor of all of Japan and promising to bring it all under his wing. The emperor in Kyoto did not take kindly to the rumors he was hearing of an uprising to the north. Masakado was deemed a rebel and a traitor, and a hefty bounty was placed on his head. A formidable force, including some of Masakado's own relatives and one of his closest allies, Fujiwara no Hisato, mobilized to march forth into the Kanto region and to bring back the head of the rogue samurai. In 940 AD, they caught up to the rebels in the province of Shimonoseki and mercilessly mounted a night raid. Masakado's well-trained army fought valiantly, but in the end they were outnumbered almost 10-1 and fell before the onslaught. Masakado himself was killed by an arrow through the head, after which his head was removed and sent to Kyoto, where it was to be displayed as a warning to anyone who would similarly oppose the emperor. When the head was moved, it was noticed to have not decomposed as it should have, even after months of being on display, and that the eyes almost seemed to be alert, and it was even said to change facial expressions day to day. Even more bizarrely, not long after its interment there, the head was said to call out into the night, moaning, groaning, and asking for its body back. It was also at times allegedly seen to be taking flight to terrorize the area. One evening it is reported to have begun glowing with an eerie light before floating up into the air, after which the head went shooting into the night like a rocket. The flying, screeching head eventually fell to earth in a fishing village called Shibazaka, where it supposedly landed in an area that to this day is known as Masakado no Kibuzaka, or the Hill of Masakado's Head. The head was found by wary locals who cleaned it off and buried it, with a shrine subsequently built over the burial site. This shrine was to become ground zero for various ghostly phenomena such as mysterious lights, anomalous noises, and a full-bodied apparition of a samurai wandering about. In addition to these hauntings, Masakado's spirit was blamed for all manner of maladies that plagued the area at the time, with natural disasters, disease, and accidents happening with intense frequency. The resting place of Masakado was eventually moved to Kanto to appease the angry spirit, but disaster would follow not far behind with the Great Kanto earthquake of 1923, which caused widespread devastation. The Ministry of Finance building, which had been erected near Masakado's resting area, was razed to the ground, and the ministry went about searching the mound where the samurai's head was said to be buried, but nothing was found. The hill where the head had been interred was leveled and a temporary finance ministry building was built on the site. It was to prove to be an unfortunate decision. In the coming days, many employees, as many as 14, met untimely demises under suspicious circumstances, including the finance minister himself at the time, Seiji Hayami. Other employees of the new building fell mysteriously ill or had freak accidents at their workplace over the years, with the most common type of injury oddly happening to the feet and legs of the unfortunate victims. The building quickly accrued a reputation as being cursed by the spiteful spirit of Taira no Masakado. The ministry ended up removing the cursed building from the premises, and from 1928 began holding annual purification rituals in an attempt to somehow calm down the furious ghost of the ghostly samurai. When World War II began, the government became too tied up in other matters to be concerned about keeping the spirits of long-dead samurai at ease. However, Masakado's distaste at being ignored reared up in 1940, precisely 1,000 years after the samurai's death, when a lightning bolt struck the new Ministry of Finance building that had been erected nearby, leading to a fire that engulfed and destroyed the building as well as several other government structures. Subsequently, a stone monument was once again put up among great fanfare in honor of the fallen samurai Masakado, and the ministry changed the location of its offices. This new monument stands in Tokyo's Otemachi district to this day. Masakado's angry spirit nevertheless continues to loom over the area well after World War II, with even the occupying U.S. forces experiencing all manner of paranormal phenomena at the site. The land was turned over to the Japanese government in 1961, and this seemed to put the samurai spirit at rest until the area underwent development in the late 60s, which perhaps by this time, unsurprisingly, led to the specter of freak accidents and illnesses befalling workers, as well as various reports of a mysterious, shadowy figure appearing in photographs taken near the site. Locals began twice-monthly purification rituals in order to restrain the restless spirit. In 1984, Taira no Masakado's spirit was officially reinstated to deity status. To this day, the sinister curse of Taira no Masakado is well known and feared by locals. The area where the grave and monument are held have come a long way since their humble beginnings. Otemachi, where the shrine housing the samurai spirit currently lies, has transformed into a bustling financial district of high-rise buildings and soaring skyscrapers, among some of the most prime real estate in Tokyo. And just a stone's throw from the Imperial Palace, the unassuming Kanda Moijin Shrine and a plot of land where Masakado's head is said to be buried has remained untouched and is maintained by an organization of businesses and volunteers who seek to preserve it, continuing to hold frequent purification rituals to calm Masakado's spirit.
So, warrior to wanting to become emperor to becoming deity.
Yep.
Can't say he didn't rise through the ranks.
Yeah. Took 1,000 years, but he got there.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. Not too shabby for himself.
Mm-hmm. Good whiskey.
Good whiskey. Always took whiskey.
Scotch. Same thing. It's,
Yeah.
Scotch is just Scottish whiskey.
Scotch is Scottish, so whiskey's whiskey, but then there's Irish whiskey, and then there's bourbon, and there's Scotch, and
They're all kind of cousins.
there's Japanese whiskey.
Yes, which we had thought about going and getting a bottle for tonight, but
we need to drink some more bottles and make some room first.
although we did,
We killed one.
we killed one tonight, so there is an open spot on the bar.
Oh, fun fact about Japanese whiskey, it used to be called Japanese Scotch before the whiskey law happened. Yep.
Know that.
That went through the
The world of whiskey.
well, yes,
Well, specifically, it went through the UK.
yeah, and
It was Queen Victoria.
the international
Preservation or whatever
something
it
like
was.
that. Yeah,
Anyway.
Scotch can only be made in Scotland.
Yeah, but Japanese whiskey is made with a very similar method.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
which is why we like it.
And it is quite good.
It is
And actually, I had not been introduced to Japanese whiskey until just a few years ago. We got an advent calendar of whiskey.
I would love to get that again.
It was a really good one. We
Where
got
did
it from.
you find that?
We
got it through the UK.
Yeah,
Of course.
we ordered it online from the UK, and it had a whole wide variety of whiskeys in it, including 2 Japanese whiskeys. And I was very surprised, pleasantly surprised at just how good they were.
Yep.
Very, very tasty.
All right, so let's go on to Bibai. It's a round schoolhouse. It's the country's largest second largest island of Hokkaido.
Hokkaido.
And this is where the Ishikari River Basin. We can find the small city of Bibai. The small city is known for its beautiful views, its history as a coal mining center, and while the coal mines have been shuttered, other historic sites remain in the area, including a ruined and rather creepy former schoolhouse. The building itself was built in the early 1900s and was designed in a distinct round shape from which it earns its simple nickname, the Round Schoolhouse. From the 1940s until the 1970s, it was used as an elementary school, after which it was closed when the population started to drop after the closing of coal mines. Since then, it simply has been left there to fall into ruin. Tables and desks are still set up there, all lined up as if they're expecting students that will never come again. Nature has started to reclaim the site, with a thick brush surrounding the building and swallowing the playground. The road to the building is overgrown, so the only way to reach the decaying structure today is on foot from the nearest road. Dark rumors and stories sprang up almost immediately after the closing of the school, beginning with locals claiming that the woods in the vicinity were haunted by mysterious lights and shadowy figures, and the nights would often be pierced by screams as well as other unnatural and unusual noises. Additionally, there are rumors of several children who had gone out to play in the woods and have never come back. It was not long before all this was linked to the abandoned schoolhouse. Through the late 70s and 80s, the Round Schoolhouse became a popular place to go and try to see ghosts, and by all accounts, it was absolutely infested with them. Frightened trespassers to the site would come back with terrifying tales of encountering all manner of supernatural phenomenon on the school grounds or within its dilapidating building. And it has steadily become an increasingly well-known into the later years as a hot spot for the paranormal. Even above and beyond the talk of hauntings, more sinister rumors tell of people going off to explore the ruins only to disappear without a trace. And the stories about abandoned cars found on the nearby road and their occupants have said to gone off towards the schoolhouse to never return. Perhaps worse yet are those who have said to come back completely insane, driven to the brink of madness by whatever they had seen in that place. One report from the site was of a group of 3 curiosity seekers who in 1998 went off to the ruins to poke around and seemed to have gotten way more than they bargained for. It started innocently enough. Then the group of friends decided to make a trip out to the place after hearing some of the many scary stories. They parked the car along the lonely road and began their trek through the forest to the main building. Once there, the main witness claims that they were almost immediately overcome by a clinging, unsettling cold. They said that they sensed that they were being washed from the shadows by an unseen force that seemed to creep along, following them. This was followed by a series of escalating paranormal experiences, such as the items being knocked over, doors slammed shut, and the most frightening of all was the startled shout of one of the friends when he apparently aggressively was shoved by some invisible entity. The longer they stayed, the more intense the phenomenon became, until they got to the point where they had seen enough and made their way back outside. As they did, a black form allegedly congealed out of the shadows and followed them. You had to use that word congealed, didn't you? Grunge effect happening right now.
Could be worse.
It gets worse. The friends fled back to their car, the black mass in pursuit. They managed to jump in the car just as the shadow caught up to them and slammed into the car. They said that it was as if a black bear had hit the car, and then it was gone, without a trace, and they were alone in the forest again. An even weirder account seems to suggest that there is some sort of vortex or interdimensional doorway inside the round schoolhouse. Doorway, yeah. Okay. Here we go. This apparently happened as recently as 2000, and again, it involves a couple of amateur paranormal investigators drawn to this location by all the mysterious tales and creepy stories. Perhaps it was their mistake to come here in the evening hours, but whatever the reason, they certainly came across something rather outlandish in that building. Even as they made their way through the forest towards the schoolhouse, they reportedly heard strange sounds coming from the trees, such as what sounded like someone banging on a tree with a stick, the sounds of someone snapping twigs, and what one of the witnesses swore was the sound of giggling.
Giggling. That's always going to get me out, isn't it?
Blair Witch, here we go, Japanese style. Once they reached their destination, disembodied footsteps seemed to echo all throughout and around them. But that inexplicable activity paled in comparison to what they saw next. They came across a room with a faintly glowing opening in the wall. The opening shimmered and rippled as figures started to emerge from its depths. The hunched, dark creatures filled the space, terrifying the friends. Once they were able to regain their senses, the friends fled from the scene. They were never quite sure what it was they saw, and they still question their own senses to this day. Luckily, they're not insane. Just saying.
Yeah. Creepy place.
No, thank you.
So, next we are actually going to go to the heart of modern Tokyo, where rising amid the neon lights and giant TV screens is the notorious skyscraper called Sunshine 60.
The name.
I just know the stories.
Yep. Located in the Ikebukuro area of Tokyo, Sunshine 60 lies within a sprawling complex of upscale shopping buildings collectively known as Sunshine City. It's 60 stories high and looming 786 feet over the streets. Sunshine 60 was the tallest building in Asia when it was completed in 1978 and retained that crown until the construction of the 63 building in Seoul in 1985 usurped its throne.
You got this. That was an English one, guys.
I know, yeah. It was also the tallest building in all of Tokyo right up until 1991, with the completion of the Tokyo Metropolitan Government Building. So the Tokyo Metropolitan Government Building, basically City Hall, is over 786 feet tall.
I mean, it's like, it's a small city. Buildings are small, dude. I don't know what this one looks like.
I mean...
buildings are tiny, like block-wise.
Yeah.
So it's gotta go up high.
Yeah. Anyways, so Sunshine 60 was one of the first to embrace the city-in-a-city concept, mixing shopping areas, entertainment, restaurants, hotels, office buildings, convention centers, banks, post offices, and even a full-blown aquarium, theme park, and planetarium all into one massive building. This innovative design philosophy was groundbreaking at the time of its construction, and it has had a tremendous influence on the architecture of Tokyo ever since, with many other such buildings in vast complexes around the city emulating it. Although in modern times, Sunshine 60 is an impressive, thrumming center of shopping and entertainment, it also has a dark past. The site where this urban entertainment complex now sits was once the location of the notorious Sugamo Prison. Originally built in 1895, by the 1930s, Sugamo Prison was mostly used for the incarceration of political prisoners, including dissenters, anarchists, communists, and spies. It was during this time that the...
Sorry.
At least we know where the delay is.
Yeah. It was during this time that the suspected Soviet spy, Richard Sorge, was put to death by hanging here. After World War II, during which the prison avoided destruction during the bombing of Tokyo, it was taken over by Allied occupation forces and used to house prisoners of war. Eventually, 7 war criminals were executed at the prison by hanging, including Hideki Tojo, who had been the Prime Minister of Japan during the war. During its time under control of Allied occupation forces from December 1945 through May of 1952, Sugamo Prison housed around 2,000 inmates. After the occupation, the prison passed to the Japanese government, and most of the prisoners were steadily released or paroled until the eventual shutting down of the facility in 1962. In 1971, the prison buildings were demolished to make way for the construction of the Sunshine City complex, including Sunshine 60. The somewhat ominous reputation and history of the site made a lot of people in the area nervous at the time, and in fact, the very name Sunshine was chosen to somewhat lighten things up and take the edge off.
I love the Japanese.
Yeah. Yet, there were grim events that would convince many that the site was cursed. Construction of Sunshine 60 was beset by many setbacks and freak accidents, with several construction workers dying under sometimes strange circumstances, such as faulty safety equipment that had showed no signs of having any problems, or falls that could have been easily prevented. Spooky rumors started to orbit the whole project, with many claiming that the restless spirits of the Sugamo prison's condemned were plaguing the construction site. After its completion, it did not take long for the dark past of the site to seep into the bright and cheery entertainment center. Almost immediately, people reported seeing mysterious apparitions within the soaring mega complex. Maintenance workers in particular reported seeing dark shadows moving about, as well as hearing strange laughter, groans, screams, whispers, and chanting after the throngs of visitors had left for the night. A commonly reported occurrence was the sound of something scraping over the floor, loud banging on the walls, or the violent rattling of the grates that closed the shops off at night. It was not only the night workers who experienced these phenomena. Customers reported glimpsing apparitions or disembodied faces lurking within secluded places such as dressing rooms or bathrooms, but also sometimes even in the brightly lit shops in broad daylight with other people around. There were numerous instances of people complaining of sudden, inexplicable gusts of frigid cold, or of suddenly tripping and falling when nothing was in their way. Stories of shoppers being tapped, pushed, or hearing whispers right in their ear when no one was there were also common. Poltergeist activity flared up at times, with items sometimes hurled from shelves, or store clerks opening in the morning to find their stock rearranged or even strewn about the floor. The cheery-sounding Sunshine 60 quickly gained notoriety as being the world's first haunted skyscraper, and indeed one of the most haunted places in Japan. These alleged ghosts are not even necessarily ones that can readily be linked to the former prison which used to stand on the site and its war criminal inmates. One entity spotted on numerous occasions on the 60th floor observation deck is said to be a young, pale, and forlorn-looking woman who appears to be doomed to eternally leap to her death. Here, on this dizzyingly high platform far above the city streets, the woman is said to silently make her way to the railing and hurl herself from the edge, often in full view of multiple witnesses. Startled visitors, thinking someone has just committed suicide, will rush to the edge, expecting to see the lady falling to her doom, only to find that no one is there. This mysterious apparition is said to completely ignore visitors as if she is not even aware that they are there. Another regular is the specter of an old lady with black sockets instead of eyes, who is said to roam aimlessly about the office floors, repeatedly mumbling, "Where is it?" She will vanish immediately if spoken to. The operators and tenants of Sunshine 60 are quick to dismiss such stories. It is perhaps understandable that they wish to snuff out the memory of the former prison and any talk of ghosts which could tarnish their businesses. However, the stories continue to show no signs of letting up. The skyscraper has been the focus of various Japanese TV programs on the supernatural and is a favorite of psychics who say that they can sense a profound spiritual presence there, as well as an unbearable sense of hopelessness and despair. Anyone wishing to visit this famous haunted skyscraper for themselves can do so by going to the Ikebukuro train station in Tokyo, from which Sunshine 60 is just a short walk. The haunted observation platform on the 60th floor is completely open air and offers spectacular views to those willing to brave the heights and the many spirits of this towering structure.
So, fun fact, each of the Japanese train stations has a unique stamp that you can get.
Yep.
Something for you to remember your travels by. Told my nephew about that one.
Lulu is very active.
Yes,
I
she is.
think she missed you guys so much.
Oh, she missed us a lot.
Yeah, she's like letting me pet her and stuff. Like actually pet her.
Yep.
Like, she's like asking to be pet.
Yeah.
Yep. She's been cuddly this week.
She's been very
Very cuddly. And Vincent too.
Yeah.
Vincent as well.
Vince is a cuddly boy. With me anyway.
He can be very cuddly,
Yeah.
but he likes it on his terms. He'll curl
Yeah.
up on your lap, and generally he would like to be left alone. But because if you try to pet him, he would turn around and he'd try to bite you or something like that.
Yeah.
But he's been seeking out pets and been much less nibbly this past week.
I mean, I miss you guys too, but like, not that much. Please don't pet me.
We're back. We're good. We're good.
Alright, so we're going to go over to Himeji Castle and Okuku's Well. Yeah.
I sent you that one.
Yep. So this is one that was originally going to go on our scary pop culture scripts, and we decided to move it onto this one. So one of the most famous horror movies of the modern era must be The Ring, and one of the most memorable scenes from this 1998 film is Sadako crawling out from the well.
Wait, is that inspired by this?
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
That's really weird. Cool. I like it.
So the story is of a ghost girl and a well that has roots in the Japanese folklore from the form of the tale of Bancho Sarayashiki and the Dish Mansion at Bancho, excuse me. Given the nature of the popularity of the story, the tale has a couple of variations, including the two versions written for the stage. Despite many different tellings, at the core of the story, the tale is treachery, betrayal, and tragedy revolving around a young girl, a samurai, and a well. So the general version of the stories follows Okiku, a young servant in the household of a married samurai, Tetsuzen, a Yoima. I'm going to betray that, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The samurai became enamored with Okiku and made constant advances towards her, only to be rejected each time. In a ploy to force her to give in and accept his advances, he breaks one of the 10 valuable plates and then accuses her of the deed, knowing she's innocent. But without allies or support and unwilling to become his mistress, she throws herself down a well. Each night after her death, her voice is heard coming from the well, counting from 1 to 9, symbolizing her efforts to find the lost plate. After she reaches 9, her shade bursts into a ghostly wailing and crying. The nightly screams from her ghost eventually drive her false accuser insane, and to end her torment, one night a brave samurai hid next to the well, waiting for her counting to commence. Once Okiku reached 9, the samurai leaped forth, holding from their hiding place, shouting 10, representing the discovery of the lost plates and freeing her from her curse. The castle, perhaps one of the most famous and beautiful original castles left in Japan, has a specific version of the ghost story and an existing well to go with the legend. In the Himeji version, it is as related by the castle's own website. It starts with, of course, him scheming to take control of the castle, suspecting the treachery. A samurai retainer loyal to the true lord of the castle sends Okiku to work as a servant for the other's family in order to spy on him. Despite their efforts, of course, the wicked samurai succeeds in deposing the old lord and assumes power in the castle. While the loyalist samurai escapes, Okiku remains in the castle and continues to feed information to them. She's eventually discovered by one of the men who attempts to force her to marry him. She refuses. To provide a pretext to punish her, Yoma's follower hides one of the 10 plates and blames her for the loss. She is subsequently killed and thrown into the well. From then on, every night, her sorrowful voice can be heard counting for the missing plate. The manifest of a malfeasance.
Where?
That one.
Malfeasance.
Malfeasance, there we go. Of Anoma and his men does not go unpunished. The loyal samurai are able to defeat him and his forces and retake the castle. Okiku is recognized for her brave actions, and a shrine is built for her on the castle ground, which sets her spirit free. And Himeji's version frames Okiku's story more heroically than in other accounts of the tale by both placing her as an agent of the loyal samurai and recognizing her contributions after her death. This perhaps is due in part to Himeji's story being derived from a 1700s era puppet theater play, a time in which the themes of honor and fidelity were associated with the samurai class and held as major virtues. Okiku's story developed into a tourist draw to the castle by at least the late Edo period, and the castle's version leaves out the more brutal aspects of the story, as in original puppet play, Anoma binds Okiku over the well and proceeds to savagely beat her in an effort to break her will. Unable to do so, in a final fury, he strikes Okiku one more time and sends her body plummeting into the well. One particular addition to the tale is that after Okiku's death, the area surrounding Himeji suffers an infestation of caterpillars. The chrysalis stage of the caterpillars was thought to resemble the body of a bound woman. That popular thought is attributed to the infestation of Okiku's spirit returning. No one turns down the marketing opportunity. Of course, shopkeepers around the castle sold the chrysalis as souvenirs to tourists, capitalizing on the legend. Other variations have substituted the sake cups for the plates, or describing the plates as magic poison detecting dishware, or rare Dutch ceramics. In a 1914 version, it even reframes the tale as a tragic romance between Okiku and Oyama.
Yeah. So it's definitely it's kind of funny. You read a lot of fan fiction. You do.
I mean, I do, but wow.
No. You do. You talk about a lot, but the thing is, where I'm going with this is that this is like taking place back in like the 1700s, 1800s, into the early 1900s, and this original tale was getting like rewritten so many times. It's like, you know, people take fan fiction as something. Oftentimes, it's like a modern thing. People sharing their fan fiction on the internet.
This has
been going on for
Guys, Beowulf is fan fiction.
Yeah.
No, actually, you know.
Sorry, I didn't mean to sound like I'm calling you
Oh,
out
no,
or something like that.
It's valid. But no, actually, the whole Ragnar Lothbrok thing, like from Vikings.
Oh yeah.
That's all fan fiction. Like the dude probably wasn't even real.
Yeah.
Like fascinating. No, yeah, ancient fan fiction, we love it, and yeah, I read a lot of modern fan fiction too.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that at all. I'm sorry, it didn't mean to sound like an accusation.
It didn't sound like an accusation. It was just also. It was like.
That just came out of left field.
Like, where are we going with this?
Because it's not like I read a lot of anime fan fiction. It's mostly like, I'm not gonna go there.
That's fine. So we do have one more thing that we've got to just chat about briefly this evening, and this is very, very modern. This is something that has been kind of almost dominated like some of the paranormal headlines over the last decade.
Are we talking about the taxis?
Yes.
Good.
Yes, we're talking about this.
I would be so upset if we didn't.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about the tsunami spirits of Honshu Island. So it was only 12 years ago that this devastating 9.1 magnitude earthquake rocked the seafloor off Japan. 12 years ago. Yeah, it was March 11th of 2011 is when it happened. The quake sparked a tsunami that reached heights of a 12-story building slamming into the coast of Japan. Over 15,000 people wound up losing their lives in the tragedy, and vast swaths of land and buildings were flooded. Shortly after the disaster, traumatized survivors began to see the faces of victims in puddles, or wandering the beaches, or appearing at their doors. These sightings occurred time and again across the regions that were hit by the tsunami. The phenomenon has been so widespread that many books and articles have been written about the haunting experiences. The many reports tie back to Japan's long-standing cultural relationship with ghosts. In the Shinto religion, this, which literally means the way of the gods, spirits inhabit all things animate and inanimate.
Mm-hmm.
Many Japanese came to believe that because the tsunami took people before they were ready to die, their restless spirits still wandered the plains of reality. All this despite the fact that Japan is globally viewed as one of the least religious countries on the planet. Of all the inexplicable encounters that were had, though, perhaps none were quite so distinct and widespread as the phantom cab riders. In the particularly hard-hit community of Ishinomaki, cab drivers were hard-pressed to find business after much of the population was forcibly relocated or killed in the disaster. One cab driver related his experience of going out looking for fares in the summer of 2011. He was shocked to find a young woman hailing him down in a still ravaged section of town. She was wearing a heavy winter coat in the middle of summer and was completely drenched. The driver barely had time to realize that it hadn't rained in days before she climbed into the back seat and asked to be driven to the largely abandoned Minamahama district. The driver pointed out that there was almost nothing left in that area as he switched the meter on, checking to make sure that the woman truly wished to go there. There was a long pause before the woman asked in a shaky voice, "Have I died?" The driver was terrified. He spun around to find the back seat of his cab empty. Another cabbie in the area recalled picking up a confused-looking man in his 20s who kept pointing forward when asked where he needed to go. Finally, he simply said, Hiyoriyama, yes, a mountain park near the city. After careening up the mountain near Ishinomaki, the driver dropped his customer on a plateau at the summit, but when he turned around to be paid, there was nobody in the car. Countless other encounters have occurred across the region. One frequently cited spirit was that of an old woman at a refugee home in Onagawa. She would arrive to take a cup of tea, sit down on a cushioned seat, and disappear. The spot where she sat will be soaked with seawater after each of her visits. These events have been hotly debated over the last decade, with some theorizing that the ghosts are not really there, but are rather a collective manifestation of a nation that is trying to process the traumatic event. Still, the sightings continue as the country continues to cope. It does beg the question, is a ghost any less real, even if it is the product of the public consciousness?
And after the attack, people saw like all kinds of stuff. Like there were people like standing on shores. There's this one guy who said that he saw eyes in puddles.
Yep.
That really messed him up. Mm-hmm. And there was another guy who like went to go view the wreckage. He like didn't live anywhere near the devastation, but he went to go look at it, and he came back and had like a mental breakdown afterward.
Yeah.
Like, it really impacted Japan a lot.
Absolutely. And there's still people living there today that say that when it rains, they can't go outside. Yeah. They can't go outside because they cannot face even a water puddle on the sidewalk or something like that.
Yeah, and like the thing is, like, it impacted a lot in Japan, but like, I remember just sitting in school hearing about it. I had to like take off school because I had a friend in Japan. I couldn't get in contact with her, and I still haven't heard from her. So I don't know, maybe if she's lost contact or if she perished. I have no clue and no way to find out. Dude, that was rough. Yeah. And like in our lifetime too, guys, ghosts happen even yesterday.
yeah. I mean, that's one of the things that just day in and day out, like one of the most frequent questions that we get being a ghost tour company. It's like, why are all of our ghosts like from the Civil War or Victorian era or whatever have you? And well, they're not. of course, there are a lot of ghost stories from that era. Probably the main reason for that is because these are stories that have been in the public consciousness long enough to be well recorded, well documented, and particularly if people are still having some of these experiences into the modern era. So that's probably why across the board, not just here in Richmond, but anywhere you go, you're going to find some of the most well-established stories are from the era where in the probably the couple of centuries after the printing press really comes into full force.
Yeah.
That just stories, it was easier to record them. Stories were more frequently recorded, more widely disseminated, and
I think on our tours though, like specific, like I just gave Shako Bottom, so like my brain's on Shako Bottom, but particularly Shako Bottom and Capitol Hill. Yep. Like we have a lot of ghost stories from like what 10 years ago.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like
and they still they do still happen.
Yeah.
It's funny, Capitol Hill, despite being not the oldest, but having some of the oldest buildings that still stand in Richmond.
Yeah.
The Capitol Building, the Governor Mansion, stuff like that.
Hasn't been like knocked down and put something else on top of it.
That particular tour has several of our most modern ghost stories, stuff from things that have happened in just the last 10 to 15 years. So yeah, it's really kind of it's an interesting thing, but
we like ghosts here.
We do
Richmond.
like ghosts. We love to talk about ghosts.
Yeah, we like to talk about the.
I don't know why I took my glasses off. I can't read the camera.
Because you wanted to like appear smart. And like removing or putting on glasses makes you look smarter, like just automatically.
I need a monocle. That's what I need.
Yeah.
Look smarter and classier. Yeah, there we go. But
don't get a monocle, please.
No, I'm not going to. Glasses are too expensive as it is.
Yeah, I can't imagine. What are they saying? I know they're saying something.
So, Patrick, wonder if fan fiction is the modern form of expanding upon legends and folklore.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No.
I agree.
Most
That's why actually that is why I accept the Vikings TV show. Like, you can bother me about that online. If you genuinely want to hear that.
Yeah, but you wind up with this one main story, this well-established story, and then you wind up branching out with hundreds, if not thousands, of different variations of it. Yeah. So yeah, it happens. And then if someone asks you, "Have I died?" What is the appropriate response? I don't know.
Yes.
Yes.
No matter what, always, every time, even if they're not dead.
Yeah. Yeah. Even if they're not dead?
Yes.
Wait.
Even if they're like genuinely alive, like flesh and blood, standing in front of you.
And they ask if they have died.
Yep.
You tell them yes?
I feel like they have a valid reason for asking. And the answer is usually probably yes, so.
Did you take the cue from the original Ghostbusters movie?
I've seen that
Ray,
once.
when someone asks if you're a god,
you say
yes!
I know that quote.
Because it came out in the most recent one.
So I've seen that movie a total of once. And then we tried to watch a slumber party. And I ran away from the slumber party crying because the library ghost is scary as hell.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, she scared me for the longest time.
Why though? Like seriously, why though? Unnecessary.
Yeah. But Patrick, I'm sorry, Lee, that sounds terrifying. Oh
yeah, because I missed a friend. Yeah.
Okay.
He's Patrick, I love your response. Oh my god, they keep coming.
But yeah, so anyways, hope that you enjoyed the episode as much as we have.
I know Patrick did.
As much as our buddy here has.
And he hasn't been drinking.
No, he hasn't been drinking. Goes right through him. Okay.
By the way, guys, I know it looks really funny on the screen. It looks even funnier in real life.
He looks like he's been on a bender.
Yeah, on the screen it looks like he's just like over, like leaning up. No. Here it's great. Oh boy. Imagine Chris's hat doesn't fit.
Yeah, I got a fat head. He does not have any fat on his head. So,
He has no hair, no grip.
no, nothing. Anyways.
Alright, so we will be back next Monday on the 5th.
Next
with,
Monday on the 5th.
Arizona. Yes. Haunted Arizona.
Back to the States.
Yep.
Is the 5th next Monday? Oh my god, it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
June starts on Thursday.
Guys, I can't think of anything happening in June, but I'm so busy.
We're going to Hades on Thursday.
Yes.
Ah, shoot, I gotta go see that. Oops.
Yep, so, yeah, we're doing that. But then, yeah, this month, well, tours are going 7 nights a week. We're going to have a haunts get-together next Tuesday.
I didn't get that confirmation unless I
We need
ignored
to
it.
send it out.
No, that's, we need to send it. So, if anybody from Haunts is watching this, aside from Lee sitting here,
I'm watching.
we're gonna have a meeting next Tuesday. But but yes.
No, Wednesday.
Wednesday?
The 7th.
Don't mess me up like that. Why would you do that? That is so rude.
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on.
There's
guys.
a lot going on.
Yeah, we are 7 nights a week, and that is a big deal. But also, like, outside of that, geez, what?
There's things.
Why do we do this?
There's stuff. Because we love it.
Yeah.
So we like being busy.
We do like being busy. It's better than the alternative, which would be basically taking our drinks out into the backyard and
Having a fire. And,
having
like,
a fire and
throwing a party and stuff.
And that's not a bad alternative.
I'm sure Chris was going in a sadder direction, but what does
I
he
was
say?
going on something. I don't know. Alex! Hi, Alex!
Hi, Alex.
That's the
Sorry,
baby.
we're done.
That's the baby.
And as she did ask, what has been your favorite topic to research so far?
Sagas. Sagas are so cool, but we're talking about Ghost probably.
Yes.
Sagas. So.
I mean, the pop culture one was fun.
Pop culture is fun.
That one was a lot of fun. And I gotta say, haunted breweries was another fun one.
Yeah? Or you mean the distilleries?
Well, breweries, distilleries, wineries, because we ended up getting that whole book.
Yes. Werewolves. I like the werewolves episode, which we did
Oh,
back.
yes.
Yes.
That was forever ago.
It was about 1.5 years ago.
Yeah.
That was a fun episode. We've done a lot of fun ones.
Yeah.
Almost all of them have some really good stories.
I mean, I researched Japan. And like, guys, I'm impressed, by the way. That, I mean, as far as I saw, you didn't, like, pull from the urban legends.
We tried not to. I tried to actually find the full ghost stories.
And I do think we should do something about the Japanese urban legends, because the Japanese, like, ghost urban legends are wonderful.
Mm-hmm. There is a lot of good ones, yes.
Every single one of them is wonderful.
So we're in no shortage of material to work with.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, yeah, we will have to get to Massachusetts at some point.
Yes, I do have a file started.
Yeah. So
So I might go there after New York.
so yeah, but we're gonna get a little bit of a tear of states done over the next few episodes.
So we have Arizona, Illinois, New York lined up.
Ooh, Illinois. That's where Chicago is. Did you guys see? I'm so good at geography.
But yeah.
But yeah, so we will see you all next week for Arizona, and until then, happy haunting, and hopefully we'll see you at our tour soon.
Yes, please.
Yep.
Because we also are starting our brand new tour this next month called Shades Inspectors of Port End.
That
Whoa,
starts
what's
the
that
second-
about?
No,
starts a
On the ninth.
week on the 9th,
Oh
a
my
week
God.
from this coming Friday.
I'm not giving that, am I?
no, Lee. Zoe
I'm
is
Lee.
yeah,
You're Lee.
Zoe is giving that.
Zoe's giving that one.
I know we're very similar, but
Yes.
I'm Lee.
No, but Zoe is giving that one, and I'll be giving the second one. But
So yes, calendar's all chock full of tours. So we got Shadows of Shako and Churchill are both running at least like 3 nights a week. So
Yeah.
got those going frequently, and every tour. Well, no, I can't. Not every tour. I was gonna say every tour is running at least once a week, but that's not quite true.
No.
Our 2 newest tours, which
Creepy
again
Tales and Shades and Spectre
are running on alternating Fridays.
Yep.
So,
How am I gonna work Poe into those 2 new ones?
well, he gets passing mention on Court End with Monumental
Monument
Church.
Church.
So there's that, and
UCU, I don't think you're going to be able to work.
Creepy Tales. It would be a real stretch to make that happen.
I'll give it a shot. I found a way to talk about Poe on every tour. I can do it.
I'm sure you'll manage.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, yes. There's a bunch of comments. I'll come back. I'll respond to some of these in a minute.
It's Patrick.
Not just
No.
Patrick.
Oh, is it not just Patrick?
There's a couple people in here. Got Patrick and Alex and Dana. So.
Hey, look at that! You guys sent me a text saying there's a haunts meeting.
So.
Yep. Meant to do that earlier today. Alright, with that, we will see you all later, because we're just
Anyway, we'll see
We are
you
kind of
next
rambling,
week.
and I think I think
Wherever.
our friends at the Vibe Radio Network are going to kick us off in a minute, anyways.
Yep,
So
so we'll see you all later. Have a good night, folks.
Bye.
see you next week. Bye.
Bye.